This is an open letter to Mr. Reza Shah Pahlavi. ایشون خودشون رو رضا شاه میدونن، ما هم میگیم حتما رضا شاه هم دیگه. آقای رضا پهلوی، ببینین آقای رضا پهلوی، it seems ما مخلص first of all مخلص شما هم هستیم، مخلص تمام ایرانی ها. ببینین گذشته از تعارفات I really don't understand. I don't understand what you're doing. Because if you say that I am for my people, well, the first step of being for your people is trying to alleviate their pain, alleviate the pain, the torture. Alleviate the pain. If one says I am, basically if there is a thorn on my back that I cannot reach, if somebody says, hey buddy, could you take this thorn off of my back, it's causing me suffering. If the other guy pulls it out, then the other guy becomes a friend. Now if he pushes back in and increases the pain, obviously wrong choice. Now what I don't understand, sir, what I don't understand is that you say you are for your people. The comedy that I don't understand is that you say you are for your people, the people of your supposedly some of them consider you their king. They on one side you say, oh yes, I am for my people, but from the other side you say, please increase the torture that is sanctions. And sanctions or preventing others from doing business with you is the old style of circling the citadel and making the people inside the citadel suffer as much as possible, by surrounding the citadel and making them suffer by preventing goods and preventing them from trading goods and services with the rest of the others, the rest of the world. This is that old style of just surrendering the citadel and trying to starve the insiders until they give up and open the damn door. The door can be opened with a smile also. I mean, the whole idea of we have to torture them, until we can set them free. Dude, I mean, come on. You I think this is what I don't understand is with you is I think you should be the peacemaker. You should be the one on this side of the, on Uncle Sam's side, you should be the one who's basically saying that, let's work something out. Let them no more sanction. You should be the first one to say no more sanction. Oh, my people have suffered. If you say they're my people, you're the one who should say no, my people have suffered enough. Let's remove the sanctions and why not exchange tourists? 10,000 tourists a month exchanging but 5,000 tourists a month, and let's see where we get. Let's see where we get. If we get a, we can have our people have more understanding. Let's trade more with them. Let's make them the most favorite trading nation, and let's see if we can form some kind of a economic union, form some kind of a cultural union. It's as simple as that. It's sort of like, let's go, let's treat the Iranians like you treat the Swedish. Hey, you should be the one telling Uncle Sam, hey, hey, dude, why don't you, treat Iranians the way you treat the Norwegians, the Belgians, the British, the French, the Italians. I mean, there is this favoritism that is basically is out of kinship that has come between the pink-skinned lands of the world and lack of kinship that is present in the black areas of the world, black-skinned areas of the world, because of that lack of kinship. There is lack of kinship. But the pink-skins have come together and said, okay, no, we put our assets together and we become allies, and okay, everybody has to be in our team or they're the bad guy. Well, you you become the go-between and try to alleviate, see if you if you instead of sanctions, let's see if we can become their friends in order to not worry about them. Become friends with them so you don't have to worry about them. If you have 10,000 tourists of your people in their country and 10,000 of their people in your country, it's that change and keep going and coming and going and coming, it's then you're friends with them. That there is no reason to, even if they have whatever whatever military hardware that they have, you're basically friends with them. So I mean, the Uncle Sam is not worried about the Swedish having nuclear technology, because Uncle Sam is friends with the Swedish. Why can't Uncle Sam be a friend with the Iranians? And it goes back to, okay, who has to make this friendship work? Some acknowledgement has to take place that, hey, yeah, we fucked up. You see, you were trying to get on your own, and in fact your father was involved, and it was a matter of being a front organization for, the pinkskins. I mean, these dictatorships that my pink-skinned friends allow to go on, and your father was one of them. So it was a dictatorship. Right now, it's a lot. Dictatorship is apparently it's in the blood of that part of the world. It is. It's the society is in that level of understanding, and it's not just Iranians. I mean, look around you. Wherever there is a strong leader, they have order, and wherever there is democracy, they have shit to show for it. So I mean, the whole system is very force oriented, and your father was not an exception, and neither are these next guys. So the whole idea of they're bad and we are good and they're bad, we have a thing in our Zoroastrian religion. We say there is no bad or good. Everything is relative. There is no bad. Bad or good is your judgment. In the world, it's not like to say a snake is bad and a chicken is good. They're both creatures, moving along on this earth. In your mind, one is beneficial to you and one is less not beneficial, in fact harmful to you. So you determine one is good and the other one is bad. The same thing works with everything else that within our limited mind we consider bad or good. Everything has a good side and a bad side. So considering that and saying that these cocksuckers who are in charge right now, they are bad, they're people. Yeah. First of all, doing bad things as dictators and forceful leadership is a thing over there. Every system that is working over there is being run by a fucking dictator, and it has been, and apparently it's supposed to be like that until their people, mental prowess increases. But social evolution takes effect, and they wouldn't need a strong leader. But as it is, as such, where they are work with strong leaders and some people kicking ass and not bothering to even take names. And it has been, and so was your father, and so was many of these. Everyone, every strong leader in the Middle East. They're all very, very, dictatorial because that's their culture. Yes, I didn't like it either. I don't like it either. I will never want to live anywhere near there. Because just people, the social evolution is where it is at this time, based on their circumstances. So why not, as person of some influence, I wondered, why aren't you trying to facilitate a cheap, fast alternative to this, to this, I want to say, lack of understanding, lack of, I mean, here's the thing. If it's all, Mr. Pahlavi, it's all, race related, it seems to be. I mean, none of the Arab countries are getting the deal that the Swedish people are getting from Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam has a different respect for the Swedish than he has for the Arabs, and it's a totally different relationship. One that is like dating. Uncle Sam is dating the Swedish people, while it's having rough sex with the Arabs, and the Iranians were being hedged in the same basket as the Arabs. They were getting some rough sex. If you remember, the revolution wasn't, exactly bloodless. There were a lot of, they throw everything but the kitchen sink at now they're at least 2 generations down. They don't, they really don't have any recollection. But my childhood was ruined, as the rest of the countries within my age range, 20, 30 years, ever since is under sanction. Why? Why? And why would you encourage it? You should be the one saying, no, 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 no. You should be the one jumping in the middle and saying, no, 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 this is not the way to make a deal. You know what should be done? Let's, stand up before we, get into a, fist fight. Let's stand up from the table of negotiations and let's, let's start sending tourists to each other's land. Hey, you come up with this idea and say, let's have tourists. Let's open the doors and let's go by trading with them more and see if we can, if in that way we can bring up the trust factor enough to not to have to, we have to bring the trust factor up to a level that, not to have to go through sanctions, not to be worried about each other's armies. I mean, Americans never worry about the Swedish army. Why is that? The Swedish have their own, their own weapons, make their own weapons, their top of the line weapons, and they have their nuclear technology and all of that, and no problem. So when one sees that, one wonders. Then the Egyptians had tried their hand at a democracy in which basically a very nationalist guy came into power. Yeah, very Islamist, but very nationalist. And was making some changes and to the basic foreign policy that was not accepted. It was probably accepted all over Egypt. That's why the guy got elected. But the Pinkskins decided that, we don't like it. And suddenly, the guy came into power and, he's there and Mr. Sisi is ruling. The order is there, thank God for that, but it's clear that certain parts of the world, democracy doesn't work. Well, it did work. The nationalist guy came into power, was directing the policy of that nation, and because of its size and its importance, that region suddenly would become, a little unfriendly to the pink skin. These Islamists, their first issue is that everybody out, we need to have just Muslims living here. So, this is that, and this shows that the function of democracy is not, is not something that every society that we have on earth that is within its evolutionary path, not every society is prepared to work as a democracy. You can't take go in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, grab a tribe and try to tell them that what democracy is. This is a form of government that the Greek came up with, and apparently is the best form of government. Well, again, it has its good side and it has its bad side, and making other people suffer is one of its bad sides. So, what I don't understand with you, Mr. Pahlavi, is that you you should you should be the one trying to alleviate the pain for your people, not by force, not by force, but by friendship. I mean, the same deal that the Swedish are getting. The Iranians don't want the Arab deal. They don't want to be the sex dungeon master. The Iranians don't want the Arab deal. The Iranians want the sweetheart deal. They want a date. Just like the Swedish are dating Uncle Sam, the French are dating Uncle Sam. I mean, the British really dated Uncle Sam with Thatcher. But the whole point is that the Iranians in general, that's the sticky part. That's the sticky part. That is, they felt disrespected by having, having their leader being chosen, and the leader, unfortunately, your father was not a very effective leader. And this is nothing against you, sir, Mr. Pahlavi. This is nothing against you. In reality, leadership cannot be, does not inherit well. Leadership does not inherit well. What I'm trying to say is that certain qualities that makes people who they are, those qualities, a lot of it is the nature, a lot of it is nurture, and well, it's either nature or nurture, but a lot of it is just the nurture part of it. It's very important, and if so, and also, so these two, what I'm trying to say is that these two don't usually translate well from one generation to the next generation. That don't pass along. So what I'm trying to say is, in a leader, you need a problem solver. In a leader, you need a problem solver. And problem solvers, being a problem solver is not a thing that you inherit. It's really not. So, as a leader, you want to have that open hand to pick people that have proven themselves in carrying out a task or two. So it would make sense for the Iranians to choose Elon Musk as their king, if they want a king. You would choose for the Iranians to choose to have, Bill Gates as their king. Hey, Mr. Gates, why don't you come over here and you be our king, and let us teach you and let us learn from you. But tell us about your ideas, Mr. Gates. Now here is the key. Now you own this shit. Now, fix it. But what I'm trying to say, not fix it, but apparently you had the best ideas, Mr. Gates, or people who have proven themselves in an enterprise, in a field. So if it's proven within the one lifetime, it is proven, has something to show, something extraordinary, then you say, okay, it seems you have the noggin to manage things well. You have accomplished this certain task. Mr. Jeff Bezos, you can become the king of Iran, the leader of Iran, king of Iran, king for your lifetime. It's not supposed to be inherited. That's what I'm trying to say, is that those qualities that makes a leader, those qualities, is not necessarily inherited. So every leader needs to be chosen based on his own qualification, which means the whole idea of I have inherited a certain property, that's a little too old. It's sort of like my property, your property. That's a little old. So the concept of the leadership is no longer is defined as the man who has the biggest piece of land. It's defined as is defined as the guy with the best ideas. So I don't mind a leader who has never been a leader in Iran or the leader of the Iranians be the leader of Iranians if he has proven that he's smart enough. And it's not George W. Bush either, and it's not Rumsfeld, and it wasn't Cheney, and these are not also smart people. Smart people are the ones who go for the deal. How much respect does the other side want? Do we want to date them? That the question that must be raised in you should raise in the pink skin land is that why don't we date the Iranians? Why don't we date? Why are we only want to have sex with them, rough sex with them? Why don't we date them? Give them preferential treatment for a while at least, until until we are best of friends, and then normal treatment, the same treatment that the Swedish are getting. That's what should be done in Afghanistan. It should be given preferential treatment. Anything exported now that the soldiers are out of Afghanistan, this should be what you also should care, Mr. Pahlavi, that you should promote trading with Afghanistan the most, tax-free. Whatever comes out, whatever they can produce, Uncle Sam is ready to buy. If somebody in Uncle Sam's land wants to buy, it would be tax-free, import tax-free. This is how you promote. If you want to promote something, this is what you need to be promoting. Say, okay, soldiers out, please. Preferential treatment in terms of commerce to the Afghans. Preferential treatment. And this is how you should treat them. And send them tourists and start promote. Mr. Pahlavi, you should be the one who should be promoting this whole idea of paying people to live overseas, paying people of your nation, in this case Uncle Sam, paying people to live overseas as tourists. Or for here Uncle Sam pays for 2 years over there. If you want to go start your college over there, go start your college over there. Whatever you want to do, you want to live as a tourist or you want to live as a student. But Uncle Sam gives you a stipend every month for this amount to go live there. If I was you, Mr. Pahlavi, I would be promoting this. I would be saying that, yes, let's start this with Afghanistan. Let's just, draft people in. At the beginning, whoever wants to be drafted willingly, and later on, whoever, if not enough volunteer, then you stop. The draft system is started. Uncle Sam pays you 2 years to live as a tourist in Afghanistan. My 18-year-old high school graduate. Or Iran. I'm sure the Iranians will also agree. It's like they don't mind Americans living in Iran. You know, on temporary basis, tourist visa. I think the regular tourist visa for them is 3 months. They can extend it to a year at the beginning. Eventually, it's going to be 2 years. But an American living in Iran for a year and then living in Iraq for a year, another American living in Afghanistan for a year, you know, proportionally. Start with, I don't know, 5,000 a year. But the whole idea is you should be, Mr. Pahlavi, you should be promoting these kind of ideas to bring people closer together, to cause less suffering, because lack of understanding causes suffering. Lack of understanding causes suffering. And you should be the one saying that, no. If you claim that these are your people, you should be the one stepping up and saying, no, let's stop this nonsense. Let's sit down, let's talk. Let's not sit down, let's not talk. Let's trade and let's send tourists to each other's countries. Let's send tourists. You see what I'm saying? When you do that, this trade and interaction in large scale will just reduce tension. There's no need for sanctions. If there is any misunderstanding, or why there should be any misunderstanding, if Uncle Sam trusts the Swedish, the Finnish, the Norwegian with top-of-the-line technology, has no problem with these countries getting producing for themselves, developing top-of-the-line technology. Now, why this trust that Uncle Sam has with the Swedish? Uncle Sam does not show this kind of respect of boundaries. Why this kind of respect is not shown with the Iranians? And you should be the one questioning this matter the most. Why this relationship is different? Their value system is their value system. I do not accept the reasoning when someone says because of bad behavior. They're running a shed hole in the middle of shed holes in the Middle East. I don't see any of the neighbors doing much better, even though they're not under sanctions. The Pakistanis are, overpopulated and living like rats. The Afghans are, 5 tribes on top of 5 mountains, never going to be a country together. Never been a country. Shooting at each other in broad daylight. A few countries to the north, again, they're turning a little pink skin there, so they have been able to keep order a little better. Especially the Russians came in and taught them order. Those other pink skins. But the point is this, that and this side, Saddam had some kind of order, but apparently order was not good enough for Uncle Sam. That was another mistake. Folks, where there is order, Mr. Pahlavi, where there is order on planet Earth, where some asshole somewhere has been able to create order, That's a good thing. You want order on earth. Now, if you think you got a better idea in how to keep order, well, you got to communicate better with them. You have to have more of their people in your land and more of your people in their land to see whether, how our people understand each other. Do they trust each other? If we promote that, would the Americans have the same relationship they have with the Swedish as they do with the Iranians? Can they do that? Of course they can. But up to now, Uncle Sam has been, as I said, dating the European pinkskins and having rough sex with the rest of the shades. Africans in one way. I mean, why keep selling arms to everybody? Anybody who wants arms, come here. We sell everybody. This arms business, has on the planet has created. I mean, it doesn't make sense because nobody gets secure with more arms. Again, this whole idea, if Uncle Sam ever admits that you don't get more secure when there are more arms, because people have bad days, people have good days, and you don't want the whole society. Uncle Sam has to eventually admit that more arms, not inside the society, not inside the society, nor in in general in the planet. More arms does never means better. Does never means safer. If you're armed to the teeth and your neighbor is armed to the teeth, that doesn't make you feel safer. It just doesn't. Now, if you meet your neighbor in the neighborhood church, that that can be trusted. That can be trusted. But the whole point is that it doesn't make sense to keep selling arms and watching them blow each other up and saying, "Aha, see, we got such good arms, it blows so precisely, so with precision." You're going to ruin the planet for everybody. Anyway, Mr. Pahlavi, speaking of just the attainable goals, this is what I don't understand with you, is that forget about if you, first of all, in leadership by inheritance is not logical, doesn't make sense. Leadership by proven record does make sense. Even if you have to beg people with proven record to become your leader, as Iranians may do with Jeff Bezos, and say, "Hey, you run a good company, you know what you're doing. Come over here and tell us what we are doing wrong. You be our honorary king." That kind of kingship, that kind of leadership, I understand. But unfortunately, Mr. Pahlavi, you don't have a proven record of, what did you build? You build a factory, you build a company, you have a corporation, you are, you own half of New York City. Uh, you see what I'm saying? If you have proven record of multiplying your effectiveness in the silly, commerce market of capitalism, then you have proven some kind of, track record of, hey, I was successful in this task that is, technology or commerce or business or whatever, or academic. But for a leadership, that's why, leadership cannot be, is not inherited, does not inherit well. And every leader should be chosen within for their own lifetime, by their proven record. And nationality really doesn't matter. I mean, being born in one geographic area does not really make that geographic area more better than being born in another geographic area on Earth. These lines that you have drawn on the map, these are, tribal lines. It's like even the dogs walk around and piss around their supposed territory to make a imaginary line around them. But so I'm trying to say, being territorial and thinking that borders are really good idea is a is a non-starter in a illuminated society, in a progressive society. There are certain, if by movement of people from places to places, if there is going to be more production, more productive, planet-wise, okay, fine, movement should take place. This whole idea of keeping races apart and keeping, identities separate, you're all inhabitants of Earth. And you're all inhabitants of Earth, and, you gotta try to work something out. And start from recognizing that certain societies are not at a level that democracy could be very beneficial to them. As Uncle Sam saw recently with Egypt, it's just not very beneficial to the Egyptians to, have a democracy. It's just because their social development hasn't reached where it should reach. And if you want to help the Egyptians, you just, send them tourists. Again, tourists. All the problems in this world can be solved if, this tourism can be started by, by the draft, if it must. Start with the draft. First, start with the volunteers and then go with the draft. Quickly turn into a draft because, maybe not enough people have shown. But if there is a paid job, if it's a paid tourism with a good amount of money, soldier's salary, every month paid to these tourists to live overseas in all these shitholes. My point is, Mr. Pahlavi, is that more Americans going to Iran, more trade being done with Iran, more preferential treatment, more than usual, more than normal, would decrease the stress. Maybe they don't have to build the big next bomb. Maybe they feel so loved by Uncle Sam that they don't have to actually look for the bomb. And even if they do, they have so much connection with Uncle Sam that Uncle Sam is not going to be worried about them. Let me repeat that again. When you have too much interaction with somebody, Uncle Sam and the Iranians, going on a date, no rough sex, but just going on a date, just like the Uncle Sam goes on a date with the Swedish, go on a date. Going on a date with the Iranians, that means respecting some boundaries, respecting their achievements, but sending more people there to have more understanding, bring down the temperatures, and more people are mixed, the trust goes up. The higher the trust goes, the least either side care about how much arms the other side has in their house. You see what I'm saying, Mr. Pahlavi? If there is more people, more interaction, more commerce takes place with the Iranians, then there's going to be more trust. When more trust happens, then even if the politicians don't sit down and don't talk about anything, nothing happens because the people are having a good time with each other. The trust is at all-time high because at any given time there are 10,000 Americans living in Iran and 10,000 Iranians living in America. This increases the trust. Then maybe you don't even care if they have a nuclear technology or don't, because we're friends. There's trust there. You should be the one promoting that let's increase the trust with the Iranians by sending them more tourists, giving them most preferential partner in trade, charged zero tax for their products that is exported to the United States. That the same deal that the Europeans are getting. I mean, Trump had it right. Trump had it right that Europeans are getting preferential treatment. Yes, that's how you make friends, by treating them differently than strangers. And not only the preferential treatment of the Europeans should not be stopped, but the rest of the planet also should be added to that preferential treatment, especially the ones you have most problems with. Imagine if tomorrow you start trading, telling North Koreans, whatever you're producing, we're buying. Tax-free, you can export it to Uncle Sam's land. We pay you. And by the way, we want to send some tourists there, and we want to take some of your tourists. If they even uncomfortable, start with 100 tourists. Is that okay? Start with a small number, and keep asking to increase it, and keep asking to lengthen their period while you're buying whatever the fuck is that they're producing, tax-free. And other incentives if it needs to be thrown in at the beginning. This brings down the tension. By encircling their citadel and telling them, no, you come out, you open the doors, you come out, or you're going to sit inside and suffer. And you're sitting outside the castle, Mr. Pahlavi, and you're saying, yes, we should continue with this surrounding the citadel. Let them suffer until they open the door. This is what I don't understand. And you consider yourself heartbroken for the people of the citadel. Well, the people of the citadel, they're going hungry, and you're outside. You're not going hungry, but you keep saying that I am for the people inside. But then on the other hand, you say, but we should increase their suffering. Let continue with surrounding the citadel and preventing them from eating, trading. It doesn't make sense. You should be the one, asking for, more commerce and more tourists and more and more and more and more with incentive in order to make the part that Uncle Sam worries about the Iranian goes away. That part goes away. That part goes away. That's why Uncle Sam has been never worried about the Europeans having nuclear weapons or nuclear technology, and they don't even need weapons. Uncle Sam is protecting them. But nuclear technology doesn't worry. But the Iranians are a problem. Well, let's see if, for example, what I'm trying to say is, Mr. Pahlavi, is that if you promote this idea, imagine that in 30 years, their Uncle Sam could have a president who has spent 2 years of his life in Iran as a tourist. That is when you will get something similar, the love that Joe Biden is showing to Ireland, and he's not happy with the situation with Northern Ireland and the British, and this Brexit that the British shit have created. So the same kind of deep love that he's of the same kin, of the same blood, so he's of the same kin of that island. So that kind of love may come one day. Imagine imagine that today was the day that the president was just chosen, Biden. He had spent. Imagine if this, what I'm saying about the more interaction, this forced tourism. What I'm saying about that is, imagine today, Biden was a guy who, when he was 18, and between 18 and 20, he had spent 2 years in Iran or in Iraq. Just 2 years over there as an 18-year-old. 18, 19, 20. Imagine if he had spent that time forced, drafted and sent over and paid to live as a tourist. And he decided to go to college over there, or he decided to just be a tourist and travel the country. Can you imagine? He would have some kind of a love for a different land as well as his own, and some kind of understanding, some kind of deep understanding that comes with extended exposure to a specific part of the world beside the one that you were born in, even if it has to be forced for a few years. It would have, and imagine a cabinet of Uncle Sam that, would have, every member has spent 2 years of their young life in a different part of this planet, as a mandatory service for Uncle Sam. And imagine the kind of, many of them may develop lifelong roots there. And this exchange of tourists and exchange of people will bring more understanding. It will be a point at which nobody cares about who's armed or who's not armed. And if you want to actually make them more like yourself, if you're saying that we are all democracy and freedom loving, okay, you want that comes with more contact with your people, with their people, more contact, not less contact. You want to promote your ideas, it comes with more contact, but more contact cannot be on, with guns. You cannot, force more contact. But if you go and sit in the guy's restaurant and eat, that is, you're actually, want to have contact with these people. You go into the restaurant, sit down and eat. You're having contact. Go over there every day, and eventually the guy becomes your best friend, because every day you're spending money in his restaurant. He becomes your best friend. And this is what Uncle Sam should be doing. Whoever doesn't seem to be, in tone with the rest of the orchestra that Uncle Sam is running, whoever is not in tone, Uncle Sam needs to provide, more love. Not kicking the ass, more love. Hey, we have a misunderstanding with Saddam in Iraq. Okay, let's send him more tourists. Let's see how much more business we can do with him. Let's see how much preferential treatment can we give him in order to see how much, and promote more, send them more tourists. That's one way of spending money in his country, in his tribe, in the area that he had some kind of order. Here's the thing, I don't have a problem with strong men. But if you, and I don't like them, I don't agree with them, but by blockading the strong men or regions that are, trying to show some kind of, some kind of animosity, showing animosity towards you, well, you go in with a smile. You shake hands and you sit down and eat in his restaurant. And you go in there, eat the next day, and you go there and eat the next day. Eventually he's gonna come sit right next to you and become your best friend, because every day you're eating from his restaurant. This is the kind of, treatment that the Europeans, the pinkskins, are getting from Uncle Sam. This kind of treatment is the kind of treatment that I'm sure the Iranians would love to have. If Uncle Sam could just go in the restaurant and sit down and eat. And date them. Eat at the restaurant. But, and send your people there. Incentivize your people to travel over there. Pay them to live over there. In that way you're also, this is how you make friends. You treat them better. If Uncle Sam wants to make friends with the North Koreans or the Venezuelans, you just got to treat them better. Treat them better and they're friends. There's no animosity there. But it's not the Iranians that are blockading anybody. They don't have the power to do that. But it's so basically Uncle Sam owns the court, owns the ball. Uncle Sam owns the referee. Iranians are just, the snotty kid that is not getting in line, getting in shape. This is the snotty kid that is out of key in the orchestra. Well, what do you do with that snotty kid in the orchestra that is out of key? You don't kick him up the ass. You show more love to that snotty kid. Maybe out of showing love, he can get in tune. Believe me, that snotty kid is not going to get in tune by having a kick out, getting a ass whooping. He will, whatever, however he was playing, after a ass whooping, he's going to be playing worse. What happened in Iraq and Afghanistan? After the ass whooping, their system, you think, is better than what Saddam had 20 years ago? No, it's not. Whatever you want to call it, it's their system. There is no order. The first step is order. The second step is whoever is creating order, you become friends with them by eating at their restaurant, and you become friends with their people by sending them tourists, incentivizing, paying for tourists to spend time there, to develop some kind of relationship, some kind of trust. So after you develop that kind of trust, you don't even need to be worried, just like worried about them, because just like Uncle Sam is not worried about the Swedish technology, whatever kind of technology they develop. This is the thing, Mr. Pahlavi. You should be the one asking Uncle Sam to right now start treating the fucking Iranians like the Swedish. See if you can, by showing love, you can bring trust. And by bringing trust, neither side needs to worry about anything, because, and this trust can be developed with somebody who's already has created some kind of fucking order over there. Whoever has some kind of order over there, this trust can be developed by, going on dates. That's how humans do it. This trust can be developed. But you have to go on a date for the trust to develop. You can't, the rough sex doesn't create trust. Uncle Sam is trying to blame this situation in Iraq on the Iranians. It's like, yes, they're creating some kind of issues. They're helping the bad guys. They're not help their neighbors. If your neighbor is asking you for something, you tend to lend to your neighbor because it's a neighbor. One day you need something and you're gonna ask them. So the whole point is that you should be the one, Mr. Pahlavi, going and saying, let's stop this and let's go the other way. Let's see if we can, love these people, so we no longer have to, worry about them. Just like the same love that Uncle Sam is showing to the Swedish people. So Uncle Sam, doesn't have to worry about what kind of technology the Swedish people are developing, because we are all on the same team, baby. Now, the idea is, well, some people may say, is because they're pink skin. And just like Mr. Biden is related to Ireland by kinship, by blood, therefore there is some kind of a, trust, some kind of relationship. I want to date Ireland, and Europe in general, not have rough sex. How is it that the Iranians are getting the rough sex? For that fact, the Arabs are getting the rough sex, and the Africans are getting the rough sex, and the Asians are getting the rough sex. Everybody else except the pink skins are getting the rough sex from Uncle Sam. even the Mexicans. But the pink skins, they got their own thing. They're out there. They got their own thing. So this is what I'm saying. That I mean, the Five Eyes, they're all pink skin, all related to their motherland in Britain, more or less. The Americans once upon a time thought they became independent, but the British came back through the back door, and suddenly we are banging the British for 100 years after getting divorced. I'm not sure what happened. They got divorced 245 years ago, and about what, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, the British came back through the back door and are sleeping in the same bed again. Ah, the British. The British are leaving back some military advisors in Afghanistan. It's basically they feel so at ease with their old colony in Afghanistan that they say, yes, we're gonna keep some of our people here. This land belongs to us. Used to belong to us. Now Uncle Sam helped to bring it back. We pounded the land again. Folks, I mean, Pahlavi, Mr. Pahlavi, you gotta be the one encouraging no guns. Let's go in with the tourists and let's open the doors for their products. Give them some kind of preferential treatment right now. Right now. This is exactly the time you want to go in, because they just pulled out the soldiers. This is the time you want to go in with the highest and best incentives you want to give to products made in Afghanistan. Whatever the shit they produce, whatever the shit. If you have to ask, the same, even if you have to ask the government institution to purchase Afghan soap, only Afghan soap, to that extent, giving some kind of preferential treatment to anything that the motherfuckers have the capability of producing right now. If you do that, you can have security in there within a month. If everybody is out of the street and trying to produce anything, because apparently Uncle Sam is buying everything, you're gonna pay much, much less than the war. It's like 1/10 of what the war costs each year. You have to, incentivize these products from Afghanistan. Give the highest preferential treatment to their products that you can muster, and then send them tourists. These youngsters that graduate from high school, send them to Afghanistan to live however they like. However they like. They get a monthly payment of go live on your own, go live with your friends, go to university, go spend money. Here is your monthly stipend, go spend money. I can assure you, peace is going to be there within a month. Within a month. Because everybody, Afghans are all-bodied men, or able-bodied men would be, trying to produce something to sell to the United States, because they're getting, real cash for their products. And the tourist is even more important. It has to be side by side. This contact between people is the one thing that will prevent all kinds of wars in the future. The more contact, the less wars there will be. That's why I'm saying that if the this was implemented 100 years ago, the United States cabinet right now, every member of the cabinet has spent 2 years of his life in a different part of planet Earth. That cabinet, imagine the extent of background knowledge that cabinet that is put together will bring to the table, because every one of them had been drafted to this program mandatory and have spent 2 years in a different shithole in the world. That kind of knowledge, that kind of experience, that kind of bonds, that kind of roots would bring so much more, intellect, so much more understanding to the table. It's just, its value is, you can't pass over that kind of value that this mandatory tourism will create. The kind of value that it will create is immeasurable. You should be in the business of peacemaking, Mr. Pahlavi, reducing the tension, and saying that let's trade with them, let's trade so much, let's love them so much, that there is no need for us to even worry about what kind of technology they're fucking producing, because we are best friends. We don't need to worry about them because we are showing so much love. We are on best of terms. That should be your business, Mr. Pahlavi. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if anybody understands what you're doing. That on one hand you're saying I am with the people inside the citadel, but on the other hand you're telling you're on the side that says yes, let's keep surrendering the citadel until they give up, or let's smash the door and start a war until they give up. It just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, that has been what I didn't understand from you, from what you're doing. And the claim, as I said, the claim to leadership by way of inheritance is in that point, I would say, if we must have a king, let's open house. We can have Bill Gates in his retirement. He can become, for the rest of his life, he can become the king of Iran. Lead us, oh great leader. Tell us about your ideas. But you don't have a proven record, sir. You don't have a proven record. What is this claim? As far as the mullahs, I'm not living there because I can't stand their asses. But to change that, you need to have more contact. This is what I'm saying, and any sane man understands that. That if you want to change, if you want to, get to know, change your neighbor, invite them to your party. If you want to make friends with your neighbor, you invite them to your party. If Uncle Sam wants to make friends with the Iranians, because it's Uncle Sam's house. Iranians can't invite Uncle Sam to their party because, they got a little hole over there. So it's Uncle Sam's house. So if you want to make friends with them, you have to invite them to the party. By not inviting them to the party, by not sending them tourists, by not giving them preferential economic treatments, in fact, preventing them to have any normal economics by blockading them, by sanctioning them. It just doesn't make friends. Doesn't create, increases the stress, increases the worry, increases the chances of more misery. You don't decrease the stress, you don't decrease the problem by, surrendering the other guy's citadel and telling them we are surrendering you until you give up. Open the gates. This just, that's what sanctions are. It doesn't make sense. Let's put it this way. It just doesn't make sense. You can't make friends when you're torturing people. You don't make friends with your torturer. And sanctions are a kind of torture. Iraqis, the guy threw a shoe at George W. Bush. I'm not sure what George W. Bush expected. It's like after 20 years of sanctions came the bombs. And now Iraq is, looks like, a prostitute that had just, been railroaded by 20 people. Is banged up so bad, and instead of all that, they could have seen that, Saddam is a little rigid. Okay, let's send them more tourists. Let's buy more of their country shit. Let's invite them and show them how culture is, what culture is. Let's, sit down, let us teach you. As friends, give him most preferential economic treatment as you can. There was no need for war. He was in control. He had created order. The whole point should be, where there is order, let's keep order. If you want to, touch it a little, give it a bit of a touch up. If the country is out of tune and you want to bring the country back into tune in the orchestra, you pat it on the back and you give it better treatment, not a kick in the ass. Iraq is, basically has left the orchestra. Afghanistan was never in the orchestra. They don't get better by rough treatment. People don't get better after they get raped. They don't get better. Whatever condition people are after they get raped, which, forceful action such as war does, they don't become better. They had some stuff and they have lost it now. Some of it dignity. So how is this going to work? The only way this is going to work is, whoever you got an issue with, you treat them better. Send them more tourists, trade with them more, give them preferential trade treatment, and you can have a trusting relationship that you don't even need to worry about what kind of technology they have. Because, it's a trusting relationship. It has developed because 20,000 of your people at any given time, 20,000 of your people are living in his land, and 20,000 of his people are living in your land. Like two people who, from time to time their children spend in each other's house. You can't, wish bad for your neighbor if your kid is in his house, or his kid is in your house. He can't wish you bad. So that's the whole thing with having your citizens spread around the world is a good thing, Uncle Sam. Your citizens learn, Uncle Sam's children learn from the rest of the world and teach the rest of the world about individuality and democracy and whatever else they have learned during 18 years of education in Uncle Sam's educational system. And I'm sure during those 2 years they learned a lot from the locals. Whatever, I guess, they learned through their 18 years of educational system, 12 years of educational system. This is how you bring change, folks, by more contact, by more trade. You don't bring change by, surrounding the citadel. That's torture. You're giving them hunger. You're torturing them until they open the gates. And you are for this, Mr. Pahlavi? You are for this. Then I'm missing something. I'm sorry. I guess in my information wise, then I'm missing something, because these two things don't match. The fact that you're saying I am with the people inside the citadel, at the same time you're telling the people who are surrounding the citadel and giving them hunger inside to continue with the torture. Continue until they open the gates. Your aim, sir, as I said, this is the 5th time I'm saying, your aim should be, let's send them tourists, let's trade with them, let's go back home, let's take the army away from the citadel, let's go back home, let's trade with them more, and let's send them more tourists. Let's show them some love. See if we can make friends out of them. I'm sure Uncle Sam can. Uncle Sam can make friends with anybody if Uncle Sam, treats them a little better. And Uncle Sam has to start, here's the thing, Uncle Sam has to start treating these guys better, because it's Uncle Sam's party. It's not their party. It's Uncle Sam is the leader of this symphony. If Uncle Sam wants to remain the leader of the symphony, Uncle Sam needs to start showing some love to the ones who are out of tune, and stop kicking ass, because you kick their ass and they go out of tune even more. You are the one supposed to be promoting this, Mr. Pahlavi. And that's what I don't understand, is why you're not promoting this and you're promoting more torture.